Become an advanced meditator, accepting the cycle of life. I'm very red right now. I got burned today doing bicycles. So, the bad news is nothing lasts forever. The good news is nothing lasts forever, right? It depends on the situation. If it's a trauma, a pain, harsh emotion, well, it's a good news that it doesn't last, right? If it's like a romantic relationship, well, it's harder to go over the fact that it's not gonna last. So, but one thing for sure is nothing lasts in the universe. And the best example is nature, right? The four season, the cycle of Mother Earth. So we can decide to start winter, which can be linked to our shadow. And when we, like, I'm from Canada and I experience the depth of those four seasons. And sometimes in winter time, people they stay in the house and maybe they use that time to reflect on themselves. Maybe they uh, go and have harsh emotion, like they even go sometimes into depression. And some towards summertime, it's like, oh, everyone is like alive, everyone is smiley. People are like following the rhythm of the seasons. So, so winter can be linked to the darkness, shadow, and then after this we have spring that can be linked to birth. The winter can be also linked to being in the womb. Spring is like I'm coming out. Summer is like I'm fully like embodying all my possibilities. So maybe in my 30s, where I went through different life lessons, my body is fully fit and I'm fully into my career. I know what I'm going in life, and then slowly I start uh, the cycle down of that. But there can be some beauty in there because, like for example, like fall here in Canada is so beautiful, right? So many colors. So there's wisdom into this. So the cycle of season can be also linked to the hero journey, very similar as I explained in past lesson. So we start the journey, and then I'm going on an adventure. I'm in the known, and then slowly I reach that threshold of like, okay, I'm gonna go in the unknown. I don't know where I'm going. Everything's gonna be new for me. I'm getting helpers, mentors, and towards my journey in the unknown, I fall into the abyss. It's like a catalyst that I need to overcome, and it's my choice how I'm gonna overcome, how I'm gonna react towards this catalyst. Am I gonna go into the service to self, victimhood, revenge, anger, all those negative emotions, and keep them and have them on replay, looping in my mind, and keeping those trap energies, feeling heavy, right? Or I'm gonna take action towards digging and finding what do I need to transmute, what do I need to understand, what is the message of the universe, and then when I get the message, then I can reflect back, and somehow there's an expansion, there's a rebirth happening, there's a growth, there's a transformation, and then we need to integrate this in our day to day, and then we go back to a same point. Maybe we'll go back home, but we go back home differently, right? We feel different about ourselves. We feel we have grown. So we need to accept every part of that journey. We need to accept that it is needed to go on an adventure to find ourselves again. It is needed to go in the unknown, accepting the unknown, building a relationship with the unknown. It is needed to go into challenges, catalysts to the depth of the abyss. It is needed to integrate. So we need to accept all the part of the cycle, all the seasons, right? There's beauties in all those parts. There's hard, maybe shadows, and then there's light. So there's positive and negative, and it's up to us to really see life from different perspective. So that's our decision. Relationship, that's the hardest, right? Friends. For me, I don't know how it has been for you, but I had some best friend in my life where I was like, oh, finally, I found someone I can really relate to, and then I go deep and with that relationship, and I start exploring, maybe going on adventures, maybe building big project businesses and so on. And there's always something later on in that relationship where like there's a catalyst happening, some kind of like conflict, and then the relationship naturally end, and people they split apart with some kind of like a bit of resentment and things like that. And it's been a cycle, and it's very similar in romantic relationship too. Is it possible to keep a romantic relationship for all our life, or to keep a friendship for all our life? Well, I think the only way is really that each parties are growing at the same pace in the same areas, and out, or they're communicating, right? They're following each other's constantly. Like every week we have a check-in, and okay, what happened in my life, in my inner world, and I share everything, and then the other party is active listening, and then vice versa. Usually in friendship, man to man, is very hard to do this. Romantic relationship, man to woman, yes, it's becoming more and more common in conscious relationship. But somehow, even if we do this, in my experience, well, maybe one of the parties going to grow faster, and then the other one is going to feel left behind, and then this is going to start creating some frictions, because we have different style of growth, and then we are growing at different pace, and the nature of things makes it that we slowly split apart, and we need to accept those cycles. And accepting those cycles is part of accepting the the emotion. And then the hardest emotion in those cycles is grief. It's the grief of moving on from a very beautiful relationship. It's That's very hard, and sometimes it can be grief to moving on to a beautiful experience. Example, like me, when I went to college, I studied abroad. I had like one semester, 4 months in Italy, and then it was very very hard to finish that period of my life where it was total fun and exploration, and I was like fully free with myself and life, and so on. And then I had a hard time really grieving this, that I went back into another exchange in Paris, and then after that, it was so hard for me grieving that part, that I started a business to welcome exchange students, and then it's almost like I never wanted to leave university. I love that lifestyle so much. And yeah, so sometimes grieving, it can be linked to businesses, right? It was very hard for me to let go of my first business. I was holding on to it for like 3 years, trying to sell it, trying to give it to someone, trying to find a general manager to manage it. And I could never really do that. And at one point, I just decided to close the business, because I couldn't energically really like do it anymore. And then yeah, it took me 3 years to really like accept that I'm not gonna gain any money or anything out of working 8 years in this business. And yeah, I had to accept that the only thing that I was getting was all that experience, and I had to grieve all this. So we need to understand that emotions are part of life, or are part of the cycle. And once we accept the cycle of life itself, the foundation, it is easier to then accept grief. For example, if I have a loved one dying, and I know that my loved one is going into the soul realm, and then after that, it's in that soul realm, it's going to be meeting his loved one and his guides, and then he's going to be looking from above, and then guiding me, or our family. Well, I can more easily accept, right, and then be less stuck in that anger, denial, anger, depression cycle of grief, right? So understanding the cycle of life really help us going through emotions and not being stuck in those emotions. Another good example is like we have past life and future life, and then they're gonna be very, very different. Like I might have a future life where uh, I'm gonna be a woman, or a past life where I'm a woman, right? And then I'm stuck right now in this life of like uh, not being able to overcome my breakup, right? Because I'm uh, stuck in grief or whatever it is. So it's really, when we see life from the narrow point of view of the human ego that is living only this physical body, it is it is harder to accept the cycles. But when we see the broader perspective of the soul that is living all those experiences from different planets, from different lives, different timelines, and then we see the cycle of the soul that is moving from one being to then merging with bigger being, that then merging with bigger soul that become a planet, that then merge with bigger soul that then become a sun, that then merge to become like a galaxy, then we start really seeing the macro and the micro perspective differently, and then it's easier to accept everything. So the cycles are everywhere, right? There's a cycle of the sun, the cycle of the moon. One amazing practice is to start building the habit of opening and closing a cycle, doing opening ceremony and closing ceremonies, and can be as simple as lighting up a candle, writing a few words in my journal. That's it. Or I can do something longer where I'm gonna have maybe my stones all around in a circle, and I'm gonna put like a whole settings with so much candles, music, and then I'm gonna, I don't know, take a bath with like those herbs, and then I'm gonna do a deep meditation. I'm gonna channel my God. I'm gonna, right? Or it can be even next level where I do this ceremony with my family or with a tribe, right? So it's my decision on how I want to um, inaugurate whatever I'm going through. The cycle of the sun is, we don't think about that, but the sun is going through the same cycle of the soul, right? The evolution of the colors, which is the evolution of the chakras. So there's example here. Our sun is yellow, where from my theory, because it's linked to the third density. Most soul here are learning on how to embody the solar plexus, how to embody their uniqueness, their confidence, their uh, will to take action, right? And then there's stars like Sirius A that is blue, where we know that most of the star seeds are coming from Sirius A, and then Sirius A is like fifth density souls, integrating wisdom from the throat. And there's Sirius B that is white, a white dwarf that maybe it's linked to something that is even higher that I am not sure about. It's linked to the cycle of color. I'm watching this new series on Gaia. It's fascinating, super good. It's integrating all the knowledge of Joe Dispenza, everything we talked about, combining ancient teachings of Egypt, the Bible, the different symbols everywhere, and then teaching about the energy system, sacred geometry, the depth of the dense of color, and so on. So there's this wheel there that is presented, and it's exactly the cycle of life, right? It start in the earth star with like the color of the blood, and then it turned into the root chakra, and then we do all the color of the rainbow towards the crown. And then after that there's over chakras that are more like ultraviolet white, the one that are above in the 12 chakra system, right? And then we go back into the central sun. The central sun is meant to be white. It's the wholeness. It's right. And then the opposite of that is black. And then the separation between this duality, there's a negative gray that is negative green. That is the opposite of the green, right? And we know that the beings that go in service to self, they skip the heart. So maybe this is their connection. And then what they teach here in the series is that this negative green is a deep, 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 powerful energy that is able to pierce to every stone. And even like there's some black magic that has been used with that negative green, like a frequency that was hidden in the sarcophage of the pharaohs. And when they open the tombs, and then people they start dying in the next year or two, things like that they explain in the series, fascinating. And what I'm seeing now, I'm not sure, I'm still exploring, but I'm seeing how it's the depth of the dark side that we really need to embody. It's like understanding and transmuting the goddess Kadi or segment, all those energies that are like very um like it's the dark feminine, right, that we talked about in one of the lessons. And there's some kind of power into this. I was watching different videos, and then that was showing in different movies how, for example, like in the movie Lucy, where like towards the end, like she's fully embodying enlightenment, and then there's this kind of like dark energy taking over, and then she become the computer. So it's like somehow the process of enlightenment is really embodying the depth of the dark side. Also in Doctor Strange, where like the ancient one, the woman, the master, in the first movie, where he goes in Kathmandu and then you meet that master. That master, towards the end of the movie, we realize that she's tapping into that force of the dark side, right? So yeah, think about this and reflect about it. I think it's all linked to the negative green. So opening a ceremony can be, yeah, we're all looking for like opening a love ceremony, getting married, and stuff like that, which is the perfect example, right? We should do this for anything in our life, like starting a 21-day challenge, starting um, a new adventure abroad, starting a new style or identity in our life, whatever it feels like. But we are not really uh taking the time to close, right? And then we're, because the closing is hard, right? There's hard emotion towards this. Most of the time, people, they don't really take the time to do a conscious uncoupling, right? They teach this on Mind Valley. It's fascinating. I tried this before with my ex, and it's very, very hard. It was not successful, but at least we try and we explore. I think we need two parties that are really, really deep in the spiritual journey and with their heart open, and then they still have deep love for each other, and then they understand that, okay, it's time, right? It's time for closing, it's time for a transition, it's time for a new cycle of life, right? So anything in your life, now we're going to be finishing the 21-day challenge. Like, I would love you to just take the time, even if you didn't do all the meditation, but just embrace those 21 days that we all made our best here. Light up a candle, journal about it, send some gratitude to the beautiful group that we have here of 55 plus souls, and then yeah, just show some a moment in time for closing that container, and that's it. With this, I'll be sending my wishes to you. I'll be closing, sending a beautiful video on our 21st day, which is going to be the 23rd of July on Sunday. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for this beautiful journey. It's been a beautiful container, and we're learning about life, exploring ourselves, and there's nothing more important than this. So I'm sending love. Thank you so much.